Happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. We're glad that you are here and hope this little discussion of Ruth has been important to you and has added something to your journey. We started in a bad place. Ruth's husband died, her two sons die. One daughter-in-law goes back home. Ruth stays with her. They go back to Bethlehem. But Naomi's coming back to Bethlehem way, way different than she left. And she tells everybody, I'm very, very, very bitter. This is what God has done. And this is where the story begins. Every story begins with a problem. But the writer of the book of Ruth gives us just a little hint. Just a little hint at the end of chapter 1 that things are beginning to turn. He says, or she says, the writer says, Naomi came home during the barley harvest. Now, if we were watching the movie, this is the part of the movie where the music would change. And we go from being dark and somber to a little hope, a little light, a little hint that, man, things are going to change for the better right here. Now, we have no clue what's going to happen next. Naomi certainly doesn't. Ruth certainly doesn't. Things unfold in a rather interesting way that we'll talk about later. But right now, we're just left with this little hint that as bad as things are, don't give up hope because God is up to something. This is the barley harvest. This is a moment of hope, of celebration, of thanksgiving for God and his provision. Naomi comes back and she's grieving her loss. She's now empty and bitter. But this is the time of the barley harvest. See, there's abundance, there's joy. We're going to be taken care of for the next year because the barley crop came in. God's up to something. Now, frustrating thing about the book of Luke is God hasn't been mentioned yet, other than for Naomi to say God has punished me, or God's turned his back on me, or God's been very mean to me. God hasn't been mentioned. There are no angels. This is Naomi and Ruth. And this little hint there's something going on in the background. Sometimes in the middle of a bad time, in the middle of a problem, we can't see God working. So we assume he's not working at all. We've had no emotional confirmation that he is working. We've had no visions. No angels have spoken to us, and the ground hasn't trembled. The thunder hasn't rolled. We're just left with silence. And it bothers us. We want some kind of confirmation that God is up to something. Well, here's the confirmation you have. His promise. Jesus told you that this was what he was going to do. Now, there may not always be obvious signals, and like any good parent, he may not explain to the children everything that he's doing. But he's always working for the glory of his kingdom, always working for the best for his children, always. And if you look closely enough, probably even in the pain you're in right now, you can get this little hint, barley harvest, that God is up to something, that God's there and he's working. Just hang on. This story's going to take a turn, and it's going to be amazing when it does. I know times are hard. Every story begins with a problem. But if you look, you can get that little hint that God is up to something. So today, I'm going to pray that you find that hint. Do you know where it is? Let's find it. I'll give you 60 seconds to get started, and I'll see you tomorrow.